The broadcast is now starting. All attendees are in listen-only mode.
Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us in the 6-part webinar series, the ultimate webinar series for the serious landscape designer. This webinar series has really given us a chance to explore the different areas inside of the workflow for landscape designers and how DynaSCAPE software solutions really play a very strong part in that. We have attendees from all over with us today. So we have Canada, the United States, we have the United Kingdom, Australia, New Zealand, we have Spain, Italy, Portugal, uh, Saudi Arabia. So we have people from all over. I'd like to thank you for joining us today. Um, Especially overseas, it's not exactly the time is not exactly the most convenient. So thank you so much for joining us. So our host for today, my name is Joe Salemi. I'm the product marketing manager with DynaSCAPE Software, and leading us inside of the software will be Patrick Duchesne of Duchesne Design Solutions. Patrick, you're with us today.
Yes, I am with you today.
We had to pull you from the Apple product presentation.
Yeah, and I just got back from going to the Microsoft presentation in New York City yesterday, so I feel kind of like a traitor right now watching this, but it's fun.
No, you're keeping on top of all the technology. That's exactly
Yeah, that's right.
right. So thanks for joining us today, and thanks for all your work in helping putting together this webinar series. And the feedback's been phenomenal so far. So a little bit of housekeeping before we get started. I want to let everyone know that this webinar is being recorded, and we are going to post it to the DynaSCAPE website. So the link that I've emailed out for the last two, it's the exact same link, and I'm just going to continue to post each of the recordings to that page, and so you'll have one spot to go to for all 6 of the webinars inside of the series. And we are going to have lots of opportunity for question and answer. So please use the question box. It's on the right-hand side. It's in the shape of a chat bubble. So click on that, and you'll be able to type your questions. If I can't answer them, I'll definitely bring them to Patrick's attention so that he can. And if I feel that we should be showing how to use or demonstrate the answer to that question, then we'll definitely get Patrick to do that. You're okay with that, Patrick? Because we're going to get a lot of questions.
I am.
Yeah,
I want people to ask as many questions as they can.
Yeah, I mean that's the only way that you're going to find out how to do some things inside of this segment. So
Right.
this webinar is the 3rd webinar in the series, and we've titled it "The Details." And so we're focusing on construction documents, how to get into dimension mode, adding dimensions for the purpose of layout plans, making things a lot easier for the crew, freeing up sometimes the owner's time or the designer's time of having to go and lay out the site, where if you provide a layout plan with all the dimensions and as many dimensions as possible, it'll make life a lot easier and allow the crew to do a lot of the layout and staking. How to do square and linear footages, all for the purpose of takeoffs, plant material lists, and there's probably a whole bunch more that I haven't listed that you're going to show us, isn't there?
Right.
So let me switch the settings over to you, Patrick, and we'll get you to take over from here.
Sure. Let me know when you see all the graphs on the screen.
There we go. Yeah, we got it. Yeah.
Okay, good. So this is webinar 3, and I wanted to stress something really important. I was lucky enough to go to GIE in Kentucky last week with DynaSCAPE, and we see a lot of people at the shows. We see new customers, and we see existing clients, and we do our best to help everybody, and 9 out of 10 times they walk away satisfied. But it seems like kind of a common theme that some of the existing users, the questions they ask us, the answers, number one, they're not rocket science, and two, when I ask users if they've called support or emailed support, the answer normally is no. So I know Joe agrees completely with me, but I want to encourage everybody, if you have a question that you think is a stupid question, please just reach out to Joe or actually go through the right kind of chain of command and contact support. Call them or email them. They will get back to you and they will help you. So don't let problems persist when you don't know how to do things, because a lot of times it's something very simple that could have saved you a lot of time. So you probably agree 100% with that, right, Joe?
Yeah, absolutely. So for those out there, if you're giving us a call for our support team, it's 1-800-710-1900, extension 1, and that'll get you right to our support team. Otherwise, send us an email, and that's support@dynascape.com.
Great. Okay, so let's just kind of dig into this. What I want to do is something we haven't really spent much time in any of the webinars on dimensioning, but dimensioning is very important in preparing documents for your crew or crews. Preparing those is very important, because you don't want the situation where you have 4 laborers standing, 2 are eating donuts and orange juice, and 2 are measuring, trying to figure out where your radius starts and all that. So let's create some drawings that really will help your crew and you become more efficient. So this is just a standard DynaSCAPE drawing that I did for a client. This is one I did on an airplane from New Jersey to Los Angeles, and I did the whole thing in 5 hours, and he sold it for $80,000, and I did it all on a laptop with design and color. So try to do that on paper on an airplane and have it sold. So that's kind of the beauty of software and the beauty of technology, being able to do anything wherever you want. So as you can see, I have all of the plant material labeled. All of the quantities are taken care of. This, I'm not sure if I assigned any quantities to this Vinca, but we'll see. So another thing I wanted to say is I did meet a few users that are still not grouping plant material with drawings. And maybe some of you who do that or who do not group, you may have a specific reason. However, try to group as often as you can, because you are going to completely eliminate the potential, or you're going to completely eliminate mistakes as far as counting errors. The only time DynaSCAPE has ever not counted correctly is when I didn't group correctly. So if I forgot one of these little Loriope or whatever these would be, and there's kind of one hiding and I'm flying through this, I may miss one. So if I miss a Loriope, okay, no big deal. If I miss a 3-inch oak tree along a streetscape or something, you know, that's money that you're going to lose. So make sure you group your plant material. So just to touch briefly on something we have done in the past, over on the left side of the screen, when you hover over these two, this is place Softscape labels and place the Hardscape labels. So, you know, this is a basic function here when you're searching for plant material and you want to count something. Always click go, don't click insert, because insert will only insert the quantity you have. I have had several emails asking why they only are showing one plant on quantities, and I'm betting them $100 they're clicking this, and I win basically every time. So this is that tool that counts those plants. So that's the plant, the Softscape labeling. I did a whole webinar on saving this, creating your favorites list, so you really have things to go to every time. You can assign sizes, you can assign prices, which I don't do because prices are all over the map with these things. With my clients, it's easier just to give them names and sizes and a blank of prices, and then they can fill those in. There's also the Hardscape labeling, and I'm willing to bet this is probably one of the most underutilized functions in the software with users, because most people are just designing it, labeling it, and then just doing the takeoffs with the measuring tools or whatever, but they're not really assigning names to things. So you can really creatively, if you're using TechoBlock, you can create a favorite of, let's say, Techo Blue 60 millimeter Autumn Red. You can detail the daylights out of it, but you can create a drawing that it will automatically pull out that label for you, rather than manually typing out TechoBlock Blue 60 or whatever. So go back to, gosh, I don't even remember. It might be like in the original webinars we did 2, 3, or 4. One of those. It probably was the second or third. I'm not sure. So look back at that and please start using Softscape labels, Hardscape labels, and grouping your plants. Now, this is such an easy function, so the webinar probably will not be that long unless I just go off on a tangent, but I'll try not to. So in the software, it's a function called modes. Now, I've never really used a lot of modes. However, when I do dimension plans, I do use dimension mode. So normally, when you are navigating through your layers, these are all the layers that come default with the software, a ton of them, more than I ever use. You revise layers here. But down here, let's see, when you hover over, it says display the mode list. So kind of simply speaking, modes are something that they created where you can kind of isolate certain layers on the screen and get through some of the congestion of plant material, plant labels, so you can really just focus in on what you want to focus in on. And you could argue, well, I could just go turn those layers off. That's true, but it would take time to go through and turn the layers off. You'd have to go. I mean, all the figures show up when you look at what layers these things are. They automatically are assigned the correct layer anyway, so it's not like you have to really figure out what that is. There's a perennial layer, shrub layer, tree layer. However, watch what happens when I go to dimension mode. All the stuff goes away, other than rocks are in this layer. Plant bed, the plant layer is in there. Walks, steps, building, drive, all those things that you would want to dimension. So this is great because you're never going to install plants until you install the Hardscape. Most of the time. I don't really remember many times it was done the opposite way. I'm sure there are circumstances it happens, but the majority of the time it's the Hardscape goes first. So what you need to do, or what you want to do, is this is something you want to also involve your crew leader or your production manager in, because if you're a salesperson that may not have a lot of construction experience or field experience, you need to understand the way these guys and girls, women, men, whatever, you need to know how your team thinks and what information they need, because the better you give them the information and the more in line the information is with the way they want, it becomes a much more efficient process of laying out and building a job, and they're going to thank you for it. There's, I learned really quick that crew leaders, they do take a lot of pride in their work, And one thing that drives them nuts is not getting the right amount of information. So let's dig into this. So if I were going to lay this job out, and let's just pretend that these steps are here. I'm going to want to tell my crew simple things like how far it is. Let's just draw, like, let's grab a little squiggly tool. We want to show them like how far this line is here out. So if you go into the dimension toolbar, it's a very simple, straightforward toolbar. This tool here, insert a linear dimension, that's like you can flip all over the place. As soon as you turn constraints on or hold down Shift and Control, it gives you 45 and 90 degree angles. So you can kind of use that as you want, but 45 degree, any kind of goofy angles, you're going to use this one. This, of course, is going to lock you into left and right, and this is going to lock you into up and down. So I'm just going to put on inference settings, so when people watch me through the video and they may pick it up later in the video or something, you know that inference is on and it's not just me holding down Shift. But remember, Shift without inference settings on does give you inference, and get into that habit. It saves you a ton of time jumping back and forth from the workspace to the toolbar. So all we need to do is grab the vertical tool, click this button, or not this button, this, okay? So let me back that up again, okay? So grab the tool. I'm going to left click. Now, the software is saying, okay, where do you want to float this thing? Or I want to put it over here. So I'm going to left click and right click. So all of you know from using the software, it's all about what to click and when. Is it left, right, or is left, right, or whatever. So it's just, you have to create muscle memory and figure, just practice it. So now, I would also want to show them where this arch stops and where this perfectly straight up and down line ends. So I would probably take like this, just draw a line here, and take the vertical tool and start at the step, and see it tells you midpoint, and I'm going to go down to this point here, and that's 7'5½". That really, I should have drawn that at 7'6". If you can, cut out all these half inches. I don't even know why I would have done that, but I'm going to make it 7'6" by taking inference off, so I make it easy. I mean, it's a ½ inch. Or you can make it perfectly accurate. So now these guys know, or your crew knows, that from this point down, they can measure out and kind of mark this. They can mark this, give them a width of the walk. So my walkway is 4 feet. If you wanted to, you could take your kind of leader text, and you could put 6-inch border like that. So then they know this is a 4-foot walkway, but they have 3 feet of field because they have 2 borders at 6-inch. So if I sent somebody out there to the job, they could measure out 4 feet from each side. They could put a tick mark right here, offset this line by 2 feet because they know it's 4 feet, and just connect this radius. That's something where, in my opinion, you just need to trust, well, hopefully you have a crew that can, make this stuff work. If you had to go out there and kind of paint out the curve, you could. But you want to get comfortable enough with your crew where you trust them to do something very simple like this. If you really wanted to show them a radius point, you can do that, and I'll show you how to at another example. But I'm not a big fan of throwing millions of different points in here when they can attach these and just make them balanced. So that gets us off and running from these steps. So here's another point. So I drew this, it looks like think this drawing was last year. So this is a little bit below here. So let's jump over to this point. Let's start from the garage. So from the garage door, I'm going to click inference. I'm going to go down to this point, and that's 8 foot 8.5. Okay, so I'm going to float this out. So they can measure down 8 foot 8.5. Let's build on that though. Let's use a tool that's designed to even give us, it's kind of like a rapid fire dimensioning. Check this one out. You ever seen these dimensions on plans? Like, whoops. It's very, okay. So we're going to click down from the garage to the first point, to the second point, and to the third point. We're going to drag this over and then left click, and it's there. So I kind of dragged those over a little bit far. So let's bring those back closer and let's run through that again. So we're going to click this point. We're going to click the walkway. We're going to click the other edge of the walkway, and then the bed line. We're going to okay, so see how this far left line is giving dimension? I don't want that to dimension. So I'm going to right click and get rid of that, and then left click. So now what my crew can do is they can take a tape and measure out 8 foot 11.5, which is driving me nuts. That's not 9. They can measure down 20 foot 7.5, and they can measure down 24. And that gives them all the tick marks for where this walkway starts. So I would probably want to tell them where this corner is, or where this point of the walk is in relation to the corner of the garage. So we could just use the simple single dimension. So we'll run from this point over to there. So there's 12 foot 6.5. Now, I really don't need my boulders, so I'm just going to get rid of them, actually, just for the purpose of the webinar. The right way to do it is just to turn that layer off for the boulders, but for the rocks. So I want to show them where this is so they can figure out this arch, because you definitely would not want a flat, lazy curve, because that's kind of part of the beauty of these curved forms we create is the movement and the flow. And anytime you get coat hanger curves, it breaks up the flow, and it shows kind of poor craftsmanship and not a good ability to lay these things out. So this is one of the neatest tools in the software. I have no idea why I think this, but it's so neat. Insert a radius dimension. So when I click this and hit this point in the walk, see that? That is so neat. So it's showing me what the radius of that circle is. So if I were to move this up, if I move this up, where's mine? It's not going to change the dimension. If I were to take a circle and draw a 10-foot radius and sit that point right there, see how it sits perfectly? So that's telling you what that radius was of that curve that you did. So I always take a air conditioner, and I sit an air conditioner right here, and I shrink it, and it just kind of it brings attention to that center point, so you can see it easily. So this point from this corner, let's see how well those line up. Okay, so I must have done that on purpose, because this to this point, these halves are driving me nuts. So this is so neat. Now look what your crew can do. They can go from the corner of the house out 2 foot 7.5, put a pin in the ground. Then one person can take a tape measure 10 foot long with a can of paint and start from here and paint all the way up until they hit this intersecting line. So if you really wanted to show them, well, the radius for outside here, you could give them another one for out there. So that's a 14-foot radius. So the best way to do this walkway would be to extend that tape another 4 feet and do this again. Now, you really want to do like a 6 to 12-inch over dig anyways and over base it so everything is secure. So I don't know, maybe you would put like 10-foot radius, and then you could do something like plus whatever your over dig is, whether you do 6-inch over dig. So that would tell them that their radius is really going to be like 9'6", and that's what they're going to use. And then the radius out on the outside is going to be 14'6", and then they can base it, and then they can bring their walkway in. So you can do the same thing with this bed too. I can take that, I can click this, and there's my radius for that. And all I have to do is give them a dimension. You click this point. This gets a little confusing. It's just, hopefully I make this understand, like make it make sense. So let's copy our air conditioner, and let's put another air conditioner here. See how it makes it easy to see points of radii? So I want to show them if they were to measure down from the corner, that doesn't look clean, from the corner down, I'm going to click this point and bring this in here, and let's float this here like that. So we go down 16 feet 10 inches, and from that point we go over. Let's go right to the center. 3'5". Thank goodness I don't have a half-inch measurement there. So once again, our crew can lay this out perfectly. So there's a real art to this though, and there's no reason why you can't send out maybe 2 different dimension plans, because as you can see, things are starting to kind of cross over each other a little bit, and that really is not good when you do that. So you can kind of slide things around a little bit. See how I'm taking these and adjusting. So try to keep it kind of as clean as you can. This bed here, again, very easy. Single dimension line. 1 click there. 1 click. Let's see, where was that? Like right there. 6 feet. Boom, boom. Left click, right click. So that tells them they have 6 feet. If you wanted to tell them how far off this point is from here, just give them a quick kind of a guideline of 10'11". So, you know, in an ideal world, if it was possible, you train whoever is going to be maybe managing these jobs to dimension them themselves, or at least kind of have them with you, because then they will tell you. You don't want to give them more information than they need, because you don't want to waste your time, and you don't want to create a congested plan, but you also don't want to not give them enough information too, because then they're just going to be calling you and calling you. So then you just, you know, over here you go through and just really start firing off these dimensions. This bed here is 4'9", and go through and just hit a couple, because those are a little bit different. 5'11". Here's a nice one. Like, let's show them how far out the circle is from the doors, or actually from the steps, because the steps are existing. So here's our midpoint. We run all the way out, and we're 13'3". That table really doesn't need to be there. Neither do these chairs. So furniture you just don't need on a dimension plan. So let's just get rid of those. So now we have 13'3". Here's a great example of the radius function. I would want to show them where to put the pin for our patio or the circle kit. So I'm going to do our radius again. Let's go like on the inside of this wall. and here's our radius, okay? So so that was a little sloppy. We don't want to like have these jumping back on top of things. So let's click inside the wall, left click, and then it places it, okay? So now they know to the inside of the wall they have 5 feet 11, and then you could give them another one of outside of wall 6 foot 11. So that's a 1 foot wide wall. That gives them that point of measuring out to make sure that this thing is the right size. As far as pillars, pretty simple. We would work off of, let's work off of this corner. So I guess you could take and draw a line between these, so we can find that midpoint of our pillar. So let's start and take from this corner over to this corner is 5.5 feet. So I'm going to do something more like, like that. And then from this point up is 5'1". So it's very easy for them to measure over, measure up. To locate this one, you could do the same thing. Go off of this corner. Let's just kind of guesstimate the middle of this thing. Let's go right there, 14 foot up, and let's jump over. Let's go over about like that, okay? 3 foot 11. So it's very simple. These dimension tools are very, very easy. Just practice with them and get a good kind of feel for the clicks. You're going to goof up in the beginning. We all do, but as soon as you just practice it like free-throws, you're going to be in good shape. So let's work on some square foot information now. Okay, we want to estimate this job, and let's just do a couple very easy things. Let's get rid of some of this, clean them up, so I don't have a bunch of stuff sitting here. All right, I want to give a crew, or I want to do an estimate, and I need to know how many square feet of pavers is the front walkway. We want to know how much landscape bed area there is for like this landscape bed here, and maybe how many linear feet of wall we need. So there are two ways to draft in DynaSCAPE now. My opinion all along was draw in closed polylines. I'm not saying enclosed, I mean enclosed polylines. So these are completely closed areas that you can click inside to get a square footage. You can click the outside for linear footage, and you can also color in DynaSCAPE Color. I think it's the most recent release, either 1 or 2, or they came out with a feature. No, actually, it's in here. And I'm not going to teach the tool today because I don't use it yet, so I wouldn't be very helpful. But maybe in the next webinar or two, we can go over it. But this tool here allows you to not draw with closed polylines, but still be able to color in DynaSCAPE Design. I don't know how that transcends as far as doing square footages or whatever, but I've got to kind of talk to Joe and support people to show me really the best way to use the tool so I don't confuse anybody, because I'll confuse myself. So let's just drag this walkway out. I tend to do this a lot when I'm doing square footages. I like to isolate things. You don't have to, but what I do find sometimes is if you have a polyline that's kind of overlapping something else, it won't perfectly get the square footage. Now this will. We could actually leave this one here because it will. So this tool here, these are the tools we're going to be using, 1 and 2. 1 says measure an area by drawing a closed polygon, and this one is measure the length of a perimeter of a selected line. So if you click and you hold this down and you slide over to this thing, it says measure an enclosed area by selecting interior location. So if you've drawn your closed polyline right, you're going to see it outlined. So you're going to left click it So let me go back again. Click in it one time, left click, right click. Down here at the bottom, it says 154 square feet. So if you want to, you could put 154, make yourself some notes, field, or whatever those papers are. You can name that whatever you want. Okay? And just because I like things looking clean, make yourself a guideline. Okay, now we need to know how much border we need. We need to know how much border we need. We need to know how much edge restraint we need, which controls or what's the word? Whatever. It gives us the amount of spikes we're going to need too for our plastic edge restraint. Or if you're using concrete, you're going to need to know how much that is. So this tool, measure the length of perimeter of obstructed lines. So you click this tool, you zoom in, and you click left click. See it's outlining my perimeter, and right click. So I need 109.4. So let's do 110. Actually, this one was, I think this was, I can't remember, it was 153 or 4 and change. So you always want to mark up. So I forgot what that was already. So left click, right click, let's make that 110, okay? So that is 110 linear foot. You could put border. If you wanted, you could put at 6-inch width. Perfect. Right there. Now, always just put like a little space between that so it doesn't look like, now that looks goofy. That looks weird right now. So let's just put that, let's just undo it and leave it alone. Well, now we've really goofed it up. What was that again? Okay, 110. All right, let's throw that in there real quick. 110 linear foot at 6-inch width border. Okay, so you're just making these kind of cheat sheet notes for yourself. And I would suggest, I like to save this as dimension plan. You know, you could just put all these on layers if you wanted to, but I just kind of like to have different plans, but it's all personal. It's all personal preference. So if you have this linear feet of width, you want to make sure though that you go through and do this though, because you're not going to need edge restraint between here. So you could jump into this tool and click from here to here, and that's 12 feet. So maybe you bring up your calculator. You add 12 feet. Then you go back here, and you don't need edge restraint between here too. So that's 8 feet. So that's 20 feet. I don't know, you could maybe make a note here of, I don't know, reduce edge restraint by 20 linear feet. Now this doesn't really seem like that big of a deal, because if you're using pieces of edge restraint like 8 feet long, which a lot of standard pieces are, you can get 10s or whatever. I mean, that's only, what, that's like 3 pieces. But if you're doing something like this, where you have, I mean, just really quick, if you just, this is how I would figure out how much edge restraint I don't need. I would just take my polyline and run it along the edge of this foundation and the steps, because you're not installing plastic edge restraint. You're going to run it along here, here, up, and up here. So if you highlight that line and you hit this tool, it gives you 76 feet. So, you know, you could just, I don't know, I mean, 76 feet, that's like 10 pieces of edging. Why have your crew, plus you're not going to need edging at this wall, you're not going to need edging here. Why have your crew carry 12 or 14 or 15 more pieces of edge restraint in a truck or the trailer when they don't need it? It's just a waste. And then it gets lost or it gets thrown out or whatever. So the moral of the story here is it's so simple to quickly create this dimension plan and do these takeoffs. Seat walls. Here's the easiest way to do a seat wall. linear footage. Run this polyline from one point to the other and just throw this up in the middle. And while it's still blue, hit the measure tool, and you know you have between 21 and 22 linear feet of not edge restraint, but of seat wall. So, you know, you could write all this stuff down, but if you're doing a dimension plan, why not just type all these notes right along the side so you have them to refer to? Because if it's right in your file, you have much less chance of losing this, because you don't want to spend, I mean, it would probably take me to get the takeoff line for this maybe 10 minutes to get all my borders and do the calculations to make sure we're not overdoing anything. 10 minutes. This is a pretty simple job, though. You don't want all that time to be in vain if you lose your dimensions. So let's do the last thing, landscape bed. Oh no, let's say you're hydro seeding. So here's your hydro seed bed. Let's turn my volume up and see if I can make this do an air. Okay, you always want to design with your sound up. So let's do this. See, somewhere in here, because I have overlapping polylines, there's something overlapping which is not allowing it to measure right. So all I do is fly that out here, then left and right click. 840. So if you want, this is even cooler. Move this one out. Move. See, that's all lawn there. Move that out. Okay. This was dead, I think. Let's just pretend that's lawn. Okay. This is how neat this is. Okay. The clumsy way is to go left, right, and add that. Left, right, add that. Instead, just click 1, 2, 3. So when I say click 1, 2, 3, I'm left click, left click, left click, right click. So very quickly, I can measure my lawn. So this you can do if you brought in a let's say a builder sends you a plan and it's a PDF or JPEG. You can bring both of those into the software. If you bring in your building plan and they just need to know, they need to do this rake, seed, and hay property. Rather than drawing all the squares and rectangles and adding them all up like we all have done on a drawing, and it's just a horrible experience to have to do that on larger plans. Bring your drawing, bring your survey right in here as an image, rescale it, and then literally all you're doing to measure these things, you know, if this is a lawn area on a plan, you're really quickly getting these square footages and making notes. So not only are you able to estimate and dimension plans that you've drawn, you can really quickly estimate. I guess the right word isn't estimate. Do takeoff very quickly on JPEGs and PDFs. So that's really about all I have with all of this. I do want to take this a step further, though, because as far as estimating goes, actually, I just remembered that's in a future webinar with estimating where Joe will probably carry a lot of load on that one, as far as I will be showing you how to take data from a design and very quickly import it into Manage and create estimates, not instantaneously, but pretty darn fast, that'll just blow your mind and wish you had it. So I think I've covered everything I wanted to, Joe, unless you see something that I missed.
No, that's good. And next week's webinar is going to be all about the presentation. I was talking to a client the other day, and one of the things that we were talking about was the best way to convey the design intent to the crew. And when you provide a dimension plan with layouts and radius markers and all those kinds of things. It makes it really easy for the crew to go out and lay out the site. But what is also really helpful is when you provide either a rendered plan, a color rendered plan, or a 3D model. If you're
Mm-hmm.
doing one, it just you have to sell the potential client on the project, and you may have a color rendering or a 3D model. Share that with the crew because that also helps them crystallize in their head the final end product and what it's supposed to look like, and it always ends up being a much better um, project production wise because the crew has the end goal in mind and they can see what it's supposed to look like.
Yeah, you know what? I'm That's brilliant. You brought it up because you're so right, especially with like if you have the DynaSCAPE color or if you can hand render really quick. Sending a color rendered plan, like get over worrying about how much it costs to print out a colored plan, because just exactly what you said. Like when my crews would go out and they'd have a colored plan and they saw that like barberries were red and daylilies had some yellow, they could start making sense of where things were and then add in the labeling and then add in, if you even put the plant images on there, it all really helps them at least get the right plants in the right location, and then you can go and kind of tweak. But that's a really good point, and the 3D images are monumental, especially with walls and steps and grades and all that stuff. So the more you can give your crew to visualize it, it will just pay dividends. So you know what? If it costs $20 to go print a colored plan at Kinko's or whatever, just do it because it's going to save you a lot more than $20 in the long run during the construction phase. So I'm really glad you just brought that up because that's really important.
Yeah, and maybe not, if you're not going to provide a 3D model at the presentation phase to the client, if
Mm-hmm.
there's tricky pieces like grade change with retaining wall, maybe that's a piece that you model out. Or if you
Or
have a pergola, then maybe you model out the pergola. That could be
right.
something that you do, so it just helps the crew visualize. Um, we do have a couple of questions, and the most
Okay.
recent one, and I know that you've experienced this. And so the question from Michael is, do dimensions carry over to color, and how does that happen, and what does it look like?
From the best of my knowledge, they do not.
Yeah.
They don't. You get this gobbledygook. It looks like weird text stuff. So I can't even remember what I did to make those carry forward. So if I
really, I think the way to do that is to select them and explode them. And when you explode them, then you
yeah,
have an object, and then they'll come over into color. I think that's the
yeah.
way.
So
Yeah.
let's just right. While you're talking, I'll just do a really quick trial run and see what that does. So I exploded that. Yeah. So that. See, I got some gobbledygook, and you know
Yeah.
why? Because it was a half inch.
Yeah.
See that? It was a half. So that's something that you might want to find out with support too, because this 5'11" ended up fine, but that was a 6.5. So maybe you could, if we explode this one more time
Yeah.
and it breaks it down again,
Maybe.
so here's a little kudos to the update presentation tool.
Yeah. There you
Okay,
go.
so there you go.
Yeah. So
So
when you
you
have the
kind of have
half
to
inch or
explode
the
twice.
odd, yeah, when you have the half inch or the odd size, if it's not right down to the inch, if it's further detail than that, you'll need to explode it a couple times, and then you'll get the dimension into your color
Mm-hmm.
plan. Yeah.
Yeah, that was a good question.
Um, so I this question was asked right before you did it, but maybe you can go back and show it just one more time, um, and how to measure a polyline for linear foot.
Okay, all right. Here's a good example. let's say that we're doing a landscape bed from, let's say there's, who knows, there's an air conditioner here, and we need to install plastic edging from here to here. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to draw a line here. I'm going to bridge this curve. Please don't do this. Don't do that. If I ever see those, so don't click, 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 click. Click the minimum amount you can. So bridge the arch, run all the way up until you would intersect where you have no more edge restraint, and then come and push this point. And if you really, really, really want to be super, like what I'm doing right now is not going to affect the length anyway. So now we have a blue line, and we go to this tool that says measure the length of the selected line. Just click it, and we know we need 96 feet of edge restraint. So you take your 96 divided by 8 feet. So you need to have your 12 pieces, but send 13 with them. And then however many spikes, 4 or 5 spikes per whatever, however many you need. So that's that. If you have a curved bed like this, let's say this walkway wasn't here, wouldn't really be any different. Just take this, run this all the way up, bridge this, push these points like this, like this, like this, and do that. How about if we have a courtyard or something like that where, let's just say they wanted this enclosed with brick. Just click that line, hit the measure the line tool, and we need 162 linear feet. Okay?
Perfect. Thank you. Chris wants to know, is there a way to override to get the dimension into the middle of the dimension areas on the short side of the line? So you know how when you play with where the dimension ends up between the two markers, can you just show slowly how you do that and just talk your way through it?
All right. I'm going to try to answer his question. I think I know what he means. See, and if I'm wrong, then maybe he can chime in. But there are instances where there is a section that is just too short to get this dimension in between. I can't get that in there, right?
Yeah.
So there, I don't know what that magic number is. So I'm getting it here. So if he really wanted to, I'm hoping I'm answering his question. Here's what I would do, though. I just take my measure tool and measure this, which I'm getting 6'5", and you could do this. Go like this. It's still clunky. So really what he might just want to do is this. 6'5" and float this in here and maybe do something like this. Run this here, run this here, and go boop, boop, like that. I hate surgery like that, but sometimes you have to do it to create. I think it's worth it in moderation to provide a clean dimension plan. So I like this. Let me show you one more thing. I just remembered this. Here's a way that you can do a dimension plan without all these lines all over the place, okay? So follow me here, because if I'm remembering correctly, the guys actually like this better. Okay, let's dimension this corner to where this starts, okay? That is 7 feet 7. So let's do this. 7 feet 7 inches, okay? And let's rotate it by 90, okay? Boom. Now, let's measure this point from here over. That is, let's just say it's 6 feet. Let's go 6 feet. Boom, just like this. And then let's go this line here all the way down is 43 foot 5. So let's go 43 foot 5. Rotate it 90. Sit it here. So this, I like this better than running tons of dimensions if you don't have to, because it's very easy for the guys to say, okay, 7'7", boom. 6 feet, boom. Whatever that one was, 45. And you could literally just have these dimensions all the way around the outside as long as they know this. You could put a note with a little asterisk thing that says all dimensions are outside of border. So that would show them that it's not 7'7" from here to this point there. It's outside of border, and then they just do 6 feet 6 inches. Makes sense? What do you think of that, Joe?
Yeah, that makes sense. It's really nice and clean for the crew. I like it.
Yeah, it's real clean.
Yeah. Hey, so that's the questions that we have. Patrick, I'd like to thank you for your time. We're already getting a lot of feedback saying that the quality of information has been really good in this particular webinar. So really
Good.
appreciate that. Just want to say thanks to everyone for joining us. Again, my name is Joe Salemi. I'm the product marketing manager with DynaSCAPE Software. There was a few questions about some of the features that you saw inside of DynaSCAPE Design and the mention of the update color presentation tool. If you do not have those, definitely give us a call and we can talk to you about upgrading your software so that you can get those features. And we'll take care of you. You can get a hold of me. My number is 1-800-710-1900. Direct extension, which I almost never give out, but I will for everyone on this webinar, is 279. My email address is jsalemi@dynascape.com, and our website is dynascape.com. So feel free to reach out. I am responsible for all features, fixes, and enhancements that go into all of the DynaSCAPE suite of software. If you're new to DynaSCAPE and are considering a purchase, definitely reach out. We will let you know how we stick out from the rest, and really appreciate your time. Patrick, thanks so much. Until
Thank
next
you.
week. Until next week, where we take a look at the presentation. So we'll be taking a look at DynaSCAPE Color and the setting up an award-winning presentation and how that looks and what goes into that. And the following webinar, we'll be taking a look at advanced presentation techniques, so using SketchUp for 3D modeling. And the webinar after that will be taking the design and integrating that into the estimate. So an integration from DynaSCAPE Design to our cost-based estimating and job tracking software, Manage 360. Until next time, everyone, thank you so much for joining us. It's been a lot of fun. Thanks, Patrick.
You're welcome.